So welcome to Educating Geeks. This is episode 2, but for all intents and purposes, this is our first real episode of the show. Today Alice is going to be driving the bus. She's going to talk about Fringe, which she hadn't seen before. This is kind of cool because Fringe actually just ended, so it's still a fairly fresh show. It just ended its 4th season. Is that what it was? Yeah. And
4? 6.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, there's way more seasons of that than I thought there were.
6.
Anyway, it's a great show.
Which she actually watched religiously.
I've seen most of it.
Except for those shows in the middle.
The episodes
Yeah.
I knew about.
Yeah. God, there's a lot more than I thought. I watched way more of that than I thought. So Alice is going to be talking about that. And I'm Megan.
I'm Cassandra, or you can call me Cassie. Educating Cassie, the wannabe geek.
They're not going to be calling you anything, except maybe yelling at the...
You idiot! 6 seasons!
What? I'm Alice.
I'm Sarah.
All right. So Alice, tell us about Fringe.
So, I guess in watching this show, I'm not really sure why I didn't watch it from the beginning.
How far have you watched so far?
So I'm through season 3.
Okay.
And I again, like I said, I don't know why I didn't watch it when it first came out. Does anyone have the date that it began?
I remember when it came out. There was something else that I was watching, and I remember when Fringe came out, and I watched 10 minutes of the pilot, and I was like, I don't know, this seems too much like it's trying to be the X-Files, and I have a giant crush on Joshua Jackson, but it was 2008, according to
2008.
Time.
Okay.
But
I
don't know, the pilot was the one where they're on the plane, and...
Yes. And Mark Valley, who is quite hot, was in that.
I see a theme for me for the show.
Oh, yes, there will be many times.
About hot guy.
Oh my gosh, just wait until we get to Battlestar, and...
Yes.
And
Jamie
Okay.
Anyway, that's Fringe.
Hot Getting ahead of ourselves.
Accents.
Oh my god.
Love it.
So yeah, I think I was in the camp where I didn't watch the pilot.
Yeah.
But I think in my mind either there was some other show I was into, there was something else going on in my life, and I was like, oh, a rehash of X-Files. I'm not really interested.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that I just never heard that much about the show.
Yeah, same
You
here.
know, it wasn't hotly covered in EW, which I read religiously, and other shows. I mean, it just, my usual cadre of geeky friends were not like, oh, Fringe, you gotta watch Fringe. There just wasn't this hot, but I didn't know her then.
Yeah, she's the one that got me started watching it, because I started watching it, I think, season 3?
That's
Have
when
we
I
known each
started
other
watching.
that long?
Yeah, we've known.
Yeah.
By she, we mean
Oh,
Cassie.
yeah, I mean Cassandra. Cassandra started talking to me about it, and so I was like, well, if Cassandra likes it this much, I better check it out. So
That's troubling because you've watched more episodes than I have. So I didn't realize I had that.
yeah, you have that much
impact.
power.
Impact.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah? Did
Yeah.
you watch it?
I watched it from the beginning.
Nice.
Wow.
What drew you to it? What did you like about it immediately?
I think it was the comparison that they were making to the X-Files. I don't remember how I got onto it, but I did find out. It might have been Entertainment Weekly, but I remember learning that they were doing this special thing, that Fox was doing this special thing where they were doing 30-second or 60-second commercial breaks. So there was going to be more content.
Oh, I remember that.
And
Smart.
I think I was watching, was Dollhouse on at the time? I may have
Yeah.
been into Dollhouse at the
I was
time.
watching Dollhouse,
Yeah.
that's right.
And yeah, I didn't really want to really be watching it because I was already watching Dollhouse, but they were doing those 30-second
Yes.
clips.
Right.
Or it may have been, I don't remember, it may have been that's how I got into Dollhouse.
That's a
But
smart
yeah, I remember
programming
Fox
choice.
doing that. That was
Yeah.
I thought that was a really smart advertising campaign, a good way to get people to watch your show.
yeah, just
Yeah.
cut out a bunch of ads and have more content. And yeah, so I watched from the beginning, and then I moved, and we were without satellite for a week, and then I just I lost it.
Yeah.
I wasn't keeping up, and so
That's kind of like
Did
what
you end up
happened when my family moved overseas, because we moved over during Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and so when you go overseas, they're a year behind.
Oh, yeah.
Or more.
The armed forces gets what people are watching in the States, and they have their own channel just for stuff from the States, but they're always a year behind, and so we were screwed out of Star Trek. But yeah, I hate getting interrupted in the middle of a show.
yeah, and we didn't have a DVR, so I just had to wait until it came out on DVD.
But you stuck with it and you caught
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah.
You watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
Right.
I've seen every episode, some of them twice now.
Wow.
I started over to refresh myself
Mm.
when we decided that we were going to be talking about it. So I think I've seen most of the first season at this point over again.
Over again for a second time.
I actually haven't seen season 2.
Season
Or most
two
of
is
season
actually
1.
really good.
I know.
I
started
found
with
season
season
2 very confusing.
Well, that's when they start to bring in a lot of
Mainly-
the weird stuff. A lot
Well,
of the
So mainly, my major point of confusion is her Fringe sidekick. What's his name? Who's actually one of my favorite characters, Francis.
yeah.
So Francis, and I don't remember the episode.
her
At some
partner,
point,
yeah.
dies.
Mhm.
Right?
Spoilers.
And then
Belated.
No,
spoiler.
no. So
No, that's okay. I mean, let's go ahead and put it out there now. I think the way that we're going to be having these conversations and the way we're going to be talking about these shows, anyone
gonna
who's
be-
going to be listening just needs to understand that I don't know if we're going to be able to
control
when a
spoilage.
spoiler comes out. So,
Right.
We'll
Right.
try
Yeah.
to.
but
Anyway.
we'll still do the River Song thing and call out spoilers whenever they happen, just because it's funny.
one of the TV critics, David Bianculli, I believe, who does pieces for Fresh Air. He's a TV critic. He does a blog called TV Worth Watching.
Yes.
His rule is, if it's out on DVD, it's fair game.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. I mean, we're talking about season 2 of a show that's gone for 6 years.
Right.
So-
Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fair enough.
So anyway, so yes,
Okay,
that
so
happens
Francis
to Francis.
dies.
That was very upsetting to me when I watched
I
it,
was
too.
horrified. Don't you remember? I was like tweeting. I was like, "Oh no, not Francis!
Yeah.
My favorite. Why do I fall in love with sidekicks? Because they always die.
Not
What the hell? Not always.
always.
Sometimes they turn out to be
But-
what's that meme? The most kick-ass person around, or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was really, really upset. But then later in the episode, he's just magically back somehow, and they don't ever explain it. And I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, there's got to be a payoff here at some point. And maybe it's still coming. I don't know,
Well,
because now we've had the universe
So you're
connection.
at the end of season 3?
I'm at the end of season 3, but this happens at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Francis.
You know, Francis. So
Her
she
sidekick.
has a partner in the first season. The guy, what was his name? The guy who he dies.
He dies.
That was her boyfriend.
Yeah,
Smart
yeah,
Valley.
her partner who Cassie loves. He was her partner and he dies, and then she gets a new partner.
Right,
And
who is
her new
Francis.
partner is Francis. Yeah.
Yes, who's good. And
Um,
I'm sorry, the beginning of that first episode where she confesses that she loves this guy, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, like that. That's,
Bam! He's out of here.
That's true pilot
Red
fashion.
shirt.
Like,
Yeah.
as soon as
Totally.
you can't have the same boyfriend.
That's right.
In the first episode, like that. That's just not going to happen.
Another clue is
He's
if
dead.
they are in the guest star category.
You're right,
Oh,
right.
yes, he was listed as a guest star, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so I found that season a little bit, although I loved a lot of the stories, I found that season a bit confusing at the end.
Well, I
really
mean,
did.
from where you're at, I mean, I don't want to. I'm worried about spoiling something for
You, right,
by
later on.
saying what I know to have happened. But I thought that they had explained that by the end of season 3. Is Francis still around?
Yeah, so we've
Okay.
had the crossover of the universes, so we
Right.
have Walter's Fringe team and
Yeah,
we have Walternate's
Walternate,
Fringe team,
Yeah.
right? So we have the other Walter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I kept, once that got revealed in the show, I kept going like, oh, so it's going to be like, it's the alternate Walter,
Yeah.
the alternate Francis or whatever. But so far, there's been no explanation. So again, maybe in the next 3 seasons, by the
Okay.
end, they're going to have explained it. But I was just like, did somebody not get the order of the shows right when they released them? Like, I was so
I don't think so.
confused.
I think I've been trying to catch up. I honestly can't remember. I was getting the discs on Netflix, and
Right.
we've stopped doing that. But I think you may be farther than me now. I thought I
Okay.
had got up to the beginning of season 3 because I think I started watching in the middle of season 3. So I know what happened, or at least I think I know what happened.
Now I
Right.
know who you guys are talking about.
Yes, Francis.
Yes.
Charles Francis, who, according to Wikipedia, his status is deceased.
Right.
Without spoiling too much about what happened, I'm trying to catch up and say. Oh,
Let me see if it's what I think it is.
Are you on Wikipedia or Fringepedia?
Wikipedia. Which actually, surprisingly, is pretty accurate.
This is, we're having a moment with what my friend LaTanya calls nobody has to be stupid with the internet anymore.
I know, right?
So, like, we don't know the facts, so everyone's got their, like, Kindle or their reader or their whatever, and they've opened it up.
What, that's what I thought happened.
I
I think that
So I think what you saw was an AU version, didn't she? Because he was.
Well, I mean, in a way, it's not.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's not him.
Right. Yeah.
Right, but again, so even
But it's
if
not
you,
him, so think about it. So if it's not
right,
him...
right. But so even if they do an alternate, or if he's a, but that happens before the guy with the what do they call it? The shapeshifters, before he turns into a shapeshifter.
Right.
So he dies.
Yes.
Right.
Not in the Bernie scene, but earlier.
Right.
Because you see him turn into a shapeshifter, so you know when that happens.
Mhm.
Right.
So for me, maybe I have to watch it again.
Yeah,
but the logic didn't work out for me.
No, it made sense. Like I understand your confusion, because so what happens in that episode is they're looking for a shapeshifter. They don't know it's a shapeshifter. Well, they do know at that point. They know it's a shapeshifter, and they're in this warehouse, I think it is, and the team gets separated, and you see Francis go into an area,
Right.
and then it's not until the end of the episode that it's revealed that he's dead.
He's dead.
That he's dead, and that at some point you see him go into an area, and then the camera goes over to what's going on with Olivia or Peter or another part of the team, and then Francis just comes into the scene, I think is what happens. And so you don't see, it's a missing scene. And, it was done that way to confuse
it
the
worked.
audience. It certainly was. I mean,
it worked.
Because you don't even realize that it's not Francis.
Right.
And neither does the team. And that's why it's done that way, because we're supposed to be as confused as the team,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you don't see it happen. They think that they catch the shapeshifter at the end because they find the body.
And
they find a body.
Don't they find the thing at that point too?
The
roof of the mouth.
The
roof of the
machine
mouth
that they use.
thing.
Yeah. So I think they either catch him or they think he gets away. They don't realize that he's basically in their midst.
Right.
And so that's like an end of the episode reveal.
Yeah. I was confused for sure.
I mean, the way they shot it was confusing, but it was meant to be confusing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Intentionally confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so, and I started, I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it took 3 episodes, I think, and I stayed up for 8 hours watching the first season. I was totally hooked.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was totally hooked.
It's a great show. And that's one of those shows where each season is just almost completely different from the previous season. And they're all good, but they're all so totally different.
Yes.
So one of the things I would say that makes it different from the X-Files, for me the X-Files, although Cassie mentioned the transitions that it made over time, but for me it was either Cancer Man or Monster of the Week.
Right.
Right? So that's what it alternated against. And Fringe for me has a much stronger overarching storyline.
Yeah.
You still get that sense of Monster of the Week every once in a while.
But every Monster of the Week story does a better job of taking the overall story.
Right, and incorporating it and keeping it, moving it forward.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think in this day and age, that's what led to it not being as successful. A lot of shows these days have to be standalone, at least if they're procedural. And I think for that, the fact that a lot of viewers who are fickle, are lazy,
are busy.
Busy. I mean,
Wow.
Well, I mean,
their satellite connection.
Wow.
We
Fickle,
have a DVR.
lazy,
I am fickle.
judgy.
I'm judgy.
Remember, she's the TV industry lady, so she's coming from the point of view of the TV exec.
Yeah, and obviously
that's how they see us.
Yeah, and I'm fickle. I pick and choose when I watch. I want to watch when I want to watch.
Yeah,
and I think for
true.
a lot of Fringe viewers, especially since it started before DVR was as popular as it is now, before Hulu was as quick as it is now. A lot of people, knowing that they had to watch every week, that was probably a bit of a turnoff. If they knew that if they missed a
Something
week,
they would be confused, right?
Yeah, and that used to be what drove people to watch TV, but because things have just changed so drastically in like the last 5-6 years, I mean that's just not going to get a viewer to watch your show anymore.
We're not going to see another successful Lost, unfortunately.
But I think that's I think that is what causes, after the fact, a show to get really popular. It's kind of like, cult classics.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody goes to see them when they're in the theater, but they come out on DVD, and all of a sudden, everyone
Everyone's
has
interested
seen
in
it.
it.
I think
Sure.
TV is starting to kind of see that. Like, I know so many people that didn't watch Fringe, that didn't watch Lost, that have now watched every single episode because they can sit down and binge watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got these really strong, overarching stories, and that's what keeps people watching. But, to have to be on your couch at 7 o'clock every Tuesday, that's just not going to happen anymore.
Exactly.
And
Unfortunately.
to have to wait, too, to
Yeah.
not be able to binge. I remember when I did catch, I was about a season behind on Fringe, and I binged and I caught up. And then these last few weeks, waiting to watch it in real time has been just...
Yeah.
I feel like I don't get as obsessive about a show anymore when I have to wait in between every episode. Because
Battlestar fucking Galactica for me.
The
So
I watched the whole series in like 2 weekends.
So I binged, and then I had to wait. And the anticipation of waiting for every episode of season 2 was the sweetest fucking thing in the world to me. I have not been... Well, okay, we're skipping ahead. We're talking about Fringe this episode. We'll be talking about Battlestar Galactica in a later show.
Very soon.
And I'll have my little total geek out moment then.
Yes. I can't wait for that.
I know. That's going to be a really awesomely horrible episode, I think.
Yes.
But anyway, so back to Fringe, and I totally
You said that you really liked Anna Torv's character.
I did. I totally... I mean, for me... all of those freaking shows, I was even, watching a little bit of Buffy, and here she's the vampire slayer, and, 3-inch stack heels. Whatever. I'm sorry, I did martial arts for 10 years. I know how hard it is to, throw a flying sidekick in fucking 3-inch heels, whatever. But, Anna Torv's character is hands down, the most believable FBI female character on television. She wears practical shoes. She dresses with black. Granted, that has something to do with the overarching storyline.
Right.
But, pull black, sleek hair, knows how to index her finger on her gun.
She knows
That's a big theme in how Alice watches shows.
Is the finger indexed or not?
Yes.
If it's not,
you're not getting points with me,
exactly.
people.
You lose me.
Index your fucking finger.
Well, and as a female character, I don't know what episode it's from. I've seen a discussion about this elsewhere on the internet, but one of the things about her that is so awesome is there's an episode where that asshole FBI guy who's above Boyles, he's like, he gets in her face and he's like, you're too emotionally involved, and she's like, fuck yeah, I'm emotionally involved, because if I'm not, I don't care about the people I'm trying to save. She's like, just because I'm a woman and I have emotions doesn't mean that that ruins my job.
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
like, that makes me better at my job.
I understand that you think I acted too emotionally. And putting aside the fact that men always say that about women they work with, I'll get straight to the point. I am emotional. I do bring it into my work. It's what motivates me. It helps me get into the headspace of our victims, see what they've seen. Even if I don't want to, even if it horrifies me. And I think it makes me a better agent. If you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. You can't fire me. But I hope you don't.
Yeah.
One of the greatest moments in TV ever, especially from like a badass female
perspective.
And it's absolutely true. Like a man wouldn't get questioned for being emotionally involved in a case the way that she was in that case.
Very true.
But
she was unapologetically emotional and still driven.
Yeah.
And still a badass, right? And so especially in season 1, she plays the badass in Joshua Peter, which kind of bothers me later that they have to show his kick-assery too. But I loved that dynamic, that she's the one out there in the field kicking ass and taking names, and he's babysitting Walter.
Well, that's part of his character
that.
too, because he doesn't want to be there at that point in time. Like he's just doing it because he feels like he's obligated. Like now that he's got his dad out of the mental institution, like he didn't even want to do that, and so now he's like trapped. And that's why he wasn't being such a badass at the time. I like how his character kind of grows
Yeah. It's a good.
I have mixed feelings about Peter.
I just
must
love
say.
Joshua Jackson.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I will give you your, maybe I would have liked it more if he'd taken his shirt off. I don't know, but
Totally not sexist.
no, don't get up in my grill about emotional women. But I'm going to talk about boys with their fucking shirts off.
We're just that cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, of the characters, and I would be interested to hear what you guys feel. I mean, Walter, above and beyond, is like the most interesting
absolutely.
character, and he does such a good job.
John Noble, man.
I mean,
Fantastic.
he's
What an actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he
Wow.
is so good. But between Peter and Olivia, I struggle. I'm definitely on the Olivia side because I struggle too much with Peter's character. But between the two main characters, I think Olivia was definitely my favorite, and she gets to do more acting chops.
Yes, she does.
Right? She gets to
alternate.
And then when Belle takes over her body, she gets to do that thing.
Oh yeah. See,
Right.
I haven't seen those episodes. I think I'm a little bit. You're a little bit ahead of me. I know that
Oh,
happens because I've seen, because of where I started watching.
Right.
So I know a lot of the stuff that happens in the past without actually having seen the episodes.
Same.
So I'd be interested to hear, of the two main characters, which one you was more drawn to and why.
I have to say, Olivia. I hate to choose because I don't feel like it always has to be an either or thing.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm with
but
her on that. Yeah.
but I do think Olivia just because
In the
for
interest
everything
of
you said.
conversation.
In the interest of conversation and debate. I mean, certainly people could argue that Peter was more complex, but I feel like Peter was more of a linchpin for the series, and especially since the whole backstory between him and Walter. But I think that, as you say, Olivia took more charge and was more of a catalyst for other things, other story arcs, and as instrumental as Peter is and was to the series. Exactly, yes. Sacrificing, great sacrifices. No spoilers there, because that is an important scene. He's a great character, but I do think, as a woman, when there are still a relatively few number of kick-ass female characters, I will always, 9 times out of 10, if it's a strong female character, I will pick her because it's cool.
Yeah, right, and granted, we've taken Walter out of the equation,
Yes.
Right? Because if it was against the three of them, it
Walter.
would be Walter. Walter is a male character.
Just
Walter
from a
wins.
pure character standpoint, he's an
Yes.
incredible character.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Cassie, and I think the way that the show was structured, I think maybe the last season, maybe not as much, but I think Olivia was more of the main character
Yes.
in
for sure.
the series.
Yeah,
It's told
her
from
show.
her perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's told from her perspective, and I can't choose between Peter and Olivia because I put myself in Olivia's spot.
Yeah,
that's the character I identify with, but I also was drawn so much to their relationship that I fell in love with Peter too when she was alongside her. Everything that they went through as a couple, I felt from Olivia's perspective, but those emotions were focused on Peter. And I remember just this one, you know when you have a crush on somebody and maybe you don't realize it yet, and you see them out somewhere, or you're hanging out, or you're just kind of surprised, wow, oh, I didn't realize I had those feelings. There was one episode when Peter showed up on screen, and I was like, oh. And I got a little bit nervous. And I was like, wait a second, Sarah, you were watching TV.
No, I know exactly. That happens to me on every show. There's always someone that I'm like, and it happens with female characters too. They'll
Sure,
walk on screen. I'll be like,
absolutely.
man, I just love this character.
Yes.
And that you're describing exactly how I feel about the show. I want to be Olivia. If I could just be Olivia, that would be amazing. If I could just be, she's just awesome.
I have this I don't know if it's a problem, but I am not a lover of the main character.
Yeah, and I could see
I am
that.
the lover of the sidekick.
Well, they're often
So
the
for me,
most
the hard one is
interesting.
to pick between Frances, and oh my god, her name just left me.
Astrid.
Astrid.
Yeah.
Yes. That would be
Astro.
Aspirin. Asterisk.
Asterisk, yes.
As I think I mentioned before, the plucky black assistant.
Yeah,
I know. I have a lot of issues with
With
that.
that.
They
right.
tried toward the last couple seasons, giving her
Her role expanded
she came into her own a
amazingly,
lot,
and
yeah.
just that I'm so impressed with that actress. I loved the to kind of go off on a side
Yes.
tangent. We'll go back to Asterisk. The last few seasons, or any of them with the alternate universe,
Yeah.
I loved the challenges those presented to all of the actors and seeing all of them.
Yeah,
just
alternate
rise.
Astrid is really interesting character.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
she's
think
supposed
I've
to be
seen...
autistic, right? She's supposed to have
Yeah.
extreme
Yeah.
autism, or at least
Not
Well,
functions.
and there's
Yeah.
there's also there's the which again having not seen 4, 5, and 6, I'm not exactly sure what I'm about to say, but so there's the alternate world where she's the savant, the code savant, where
Yes.
she can see
Yes.
all possibilities, and then there's the one where she becomes a member of the alternate Fringe team, and then she's not. So when
Where our Astrid crosses over there?
I may not be there yet,
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So when Peter
yeah.
does this.
Makes
when
the
Peter goes into
sacrifice.
the
makes the
machine.
sacrifice,
Yeah.
and then there's that moment where he and Olivia are married.
Oh yeah.
There's that brief alternate
Ooh, I missed that.
thing
Oh,
that
yeah. I'll
then
have
goes
to...
away
It's been a while since I've watched
at the end of season
Yeah.
3. She's one of Walternett's Fringe team, but she's a regular. She's not a
Savant or
savant or
autistic.
whatever you want to call it. But
Well, that was another alternate reality, wasn't it?
There,
Yes,
because
they've
there's
had a few.
the
'Cause there's
two,
dozens
and then
of
there's
them.
and yeah, there are so
Which
many.
kind of go
Yes.
away later on.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
for a time, like, they were exploring the possibility of, like, oh shit, now I'm gonna have to keep track of 4 alternate
Alternate
universes.
universes,
right,
exactly.
Yes.
Why
Okay,
didn't
now
you
we've got the
record?
green butterfly, so I know what world we're looking at right now.
You're talking code?
Yeah. For people who haven't watched the show, they're often little bumpers before or after they come back
Is
from
that
commercial break.
like an official TV word?
Bumper,
Yeah,
yes.
it's called
Oh, I
bumper.
didn't know that.
Um,
I learned
and,
something new
and the
today.
They're not
bumpers
common
are
anymore.
always yeah, they're not. Fringe is I really applaud Fringe for the way they used them because it's actually really it's very J.J. Abrams after having been through Lost and my problems with Lost. But the bumpers are always an image of something. It's a butterfly. There's
apple with
butterfly
the
with
babies.
finger
an
wings.
apple.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah,
shouty
there's
mouth.
like a smoke monster thing.
Yeah.
And I think and the leaf.
Right.
And the images, there's always something
The
slightly
frog.
different about.
The
and the
frog,
frog,
yeah.
yes. There's always something
Right.
slightly strange about the image. Like the leaf has like a triangle symbol etched
Or there's
into
a
the
dot or
the apple.
yeah.
Looks
The
like there's
dots,
tiny
yeah.
little fetuses where the seeds would be. And then there's
A
a
yellow
light,
dot.
a yellow dot that can be in one of 4 locations depending on the photo. And for fans of Fringe, what we've discovered is that that's a code. And you can take the image and string them together, and you'll get a word. And so every episode, you can decode the episode, and the word is something that has to do with what that episode was about. It's a central
Right.
theme of that episode. But when we're talking about the alternate universe, usually it's like a bluish color, bluish tint. But when we go to the alternate universe, it's orange. And I think at one point there was a green one. I don't remember
Yeah, I
if there
can't
was maybe it was reddish colored. It
There's
seems like
definitely
I remember there
something.
being a third color at one point when we were dealing with all of the different alternate universes.
Yeah.
So they give you the tools to kind of anchor yourself as a viewer and figure out exactly what you're looking at, and then to delve a little bit
Mhm.
deeper and get really geeky and decode the phrase
Yeah.
of the day, which sometimes it would reveal something about the episode that you hadn't really thought about, or sometimes it would reveal something that may be coming up in a previous
Yeah.
episode. That was very rare, but I found that usually around a cliffhanger or especially at the end of the season, it'd give
They
you a
would
clue
give you little
about
clues.
something that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I liked how toward the end of the series run, they utilized social media
Mm-hmm.
by having a hashtag with the theme.
Well, and that's a Fox thing.
True, that is a Fox thing.
I gotta applaud Fox for doing that. Talk about trying to get your audience to talk to each other. They're using those hashtags on every show.
Mhm.
It's right there underneath their logo.
Yeah.
They want you to talk about the show on social media.
Though a
which is
lot
great.
of networks, actually, I think NBC and ABC do the
They're
same,
starting
at
to
least for
follow.
the title of the series,
Mhm.
whereas
Mm.
Fringe took it that step further and actually had a theme.
Yeah,
so
they'll
the theme,
do a theme or the episode title, depending.
yeah, so the theme might be 40 characters, but it was a
Right.
really cool way to kind of harness the discussion and get people talking about it if they weren't aware of the
Already.
code tracking.
The only
website.
problem with that, though, is the East Coast versus West Coast. So all of us on
Spoiler,
the West
talk about
Coast, oh my
spoilers.
god, I had to stop reading because I'd be like, shit, I didn't want to know that. It's on in an hour.
Just wait. That's why they
Yeah.
say avoid Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the other, there were several, I mean, I thought the whole concept of the alternate universe was brilliantly used in so many different ways on the show. So, like, having your two main characters hook up is often considered your jump the shark moment,
It's a little
right?
cliched,
It's a little
yeah.
bit cliched, but because it was Folivia,
Yeah.
right? I was like, fucking brilliant.
Really?
Because they're not really,
I
it's
didn't
not
like
really her. Well, I mean, the whole thing was a bit awkward for me, but I thought from a storytelling perspective, it was brilliant. Now, what got me later, leading up to the end of season 3, the number of connections, because that's another storytelling thing, is you've got these little threads, and then somehow at the end of the story they all just magically come together and have meaning, but that's a tried and true storytelling technique that in the end I don't really mind if it's done well. But marching toward the end of season 3, they had seen each other through the alternate universe window when they were younger, and there were suddenly all of these things that were matching up, and I was like, really? Does it have to be that well connected?
Wait till you see the last season. They
I've
pull
heard,
stuff in from as I was watching the last season, then going back and binging on the first season. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's what a lot of TV critics said.
That's something I was telling Cassandra too, because I was going back while season 4, I think it was airing. I was going back and starting to catch up on the first season because I started watching, I think, during season 3, like I said. And so I was like, well, I kind of, they're talking about stuff and I understand what's going on, but I actually want to see it and understand it a little bit deeper. And I would get so confused because I would watch an episode of season 4 when it was airing, and then I would have just watched an episode of season 1, and they'd be talking about something in season 4 that I had just watched the day before in season 1. I mean, they really did a great job of connecting everything, but I would get so confused. I'd be like, I remember that. Like, I just watched that. Like, they're talking about it like it just happened. Because it did for them, I guess. The time, the way time
slips kind of
is a little bit different. But, I mean, everything just builds on itself so strongly in that show. It's really incredible.
I think that's a really good example of a show that cares about its story, it cares about the connectivity of the show itself, and cares about fans because they know that they've got intelligent fans. And I don't think any show intentionally tries to insult its viewers' intelligence, but I think along the way, after a show lasts for so long, there is that whole, well, do we really have to make that callback from 3 seasons ago? Let's just march forward. We don't know when we're going to, if we're going to have another season. They easily could have gotten complacent, but it sounds like they didn't. They kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. So, Walter Universe? Walternate Universe.
Yeah, I think
so. For me, when we get into Walternate Universe and we have the Walternate Fringe team, I was like, yes, this is the fun Fringe team.
I know,
they're
right?
like shooting the shit and like they're all fun with each other. While we're over in Walter, everyone's like sad and serious and blah blah blah. And I was like, yay for the Walternate Fringe team. Anyone else?
I like OG Fringe team, the original gangster.
Yeah, I felt like in the alternate universe it was more of like a totalitarian, like Big Brother kind of society. So I didn't like them as much. I liked that they were.
They
were.
have zeppelins.
So it was like the reverse, right? So yeah, we're all free in the real Walter universe or whatever, but the team is all like really serious and they have serious problems to solve and they're seriously in love, but they're denying it and blah blah blah. And then in the Walternate universe, totally Big Brother, Walternate's an asshole, the whole 9 yards. But the team was fun.
Yeah, they seem a
joked
little
with
bit
each
more like
other.
real people, I guess. Like, they're just enjoying each other's company. And it's kind of weird, too, because that universe is so oppressive, and they're dealing with their world literally crumbling apart, and, they have to go and amber things just to keep their universe from crumbling around them.
Right.
But they're still, they were all super positive.
Yeah.
And just constantly joking with one another. So yeah, I can kind of...
It was like the buddy cop.
Yeah.
They were
And
the
then
buddy
on our
cops.
side where, you know, we don't even know about ambering things and there's not really anything that wrong except for the people who have Cortex fan issues.
Right.
You know, and they're just like so serious. No, that's
Yeah.
a great observation.
If nothing else, they proved to be really good foils.
Yes,
Yes,
it is.
yes.
Yeah.
And what fun for the actors, right? I
Oh,
mean, that
yeah.
just must have been so much fun.
I mean, once again, John Noble in particular.
Oh my gosh,
he
so
really,
good.
Alternate.
he really has a
Yeah.
lot to work with.
There's an episode coming up, spoiler for you, seasons down the road, where you really get to see the difference
difference.
between
Oh,
the
The
two.
two.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, that was
really
this
good.
season, right? The one that you're thinking
Last
of?
season.
Last season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it?
It's
It was last
very
season,
There-
right?
and
this season too,
this
though.
current
Oh.
season in particular as well, you really can see the foil. It's really. I just love Walter. I just love him.
He really is just we gosh.
Yeah.
Walter, gosh,
Which
gosh.
John
Yes.
Noble must be used to at this point.
Right.
Because everyone gushes
About
about
him because well, he's when
But
you're
he
awesome,
deserves
you're
it.
awesome.
He totally
Yeah.
deserves it. I didn't
Yeah.
say this in the beginning, but I purposely have not watched the 3 episodes leading up to the series finale, and I have not watched the series finale because there's such a feeling of finality to
Oh,
it.
Right.
yeah.
I was behind, and I was like, well, I could totally just like cram the 3 episodes in before watching the series finale, but I just keep putting it off because even though I didn't watch every episode, and even though I wasn't as into it as other fans might have been, like, I'm not ready to
I'm
say
very
goodbye.
sad. Yeah, I've watched. I'm totally finished with the last season, and I was thinking about it before we came here today how sad I am that I can't watch another new episode because
It's over.
I don't want it to be over.
You can watch other
I know
new
I
episodes
can,
because you've
because
seen.
I haven't.
you
There's a
haven't seen
chunk
all
I
of
still
them.
haven't seen, but I mean, like the show itself is over, and you know I can't go on any new adventures with them
with those
anymore.
characters.
Yeah. And
Fan fiction. Let's
That's-
go.
That sounds like another topic for an
I
episode.
have had to. No more fan fiction for Megan. Stargate fan fiction turned into a bad thing, so we're not. No more fan fiction.
We should have a talk about that. We should totally have a talk.
Yeah, that would
about
be
fan
part of the
fiction.
Stargate conversation.
Well, and you guys certainly, if there are things about the first 3 seasons that
I'm trying to remember.
would
Is
think
there
about.
a monster of the week that stood out to anyone in particular?
Oh, I do think I asked that. Is there a storyline outside the main
Oh.
story arc that was one of your... I found the episode in season 3 about the woman who can't die, which is funny to me because I'm not religious, but so she can't die, so she keeps trying to be taken to the afterworld by... She works on a suicide hotline, and she finds
yeah.
people, and she tries to die with them.
Mhm.
That's
And there's
dark.
a scene where she's talking to, I think it's a nun. I don't know which church it is, so it could have been a priest, but who tells the story of Gabriel, which again, I'm not religious, so I wasn't really familiar with it, but I guess the story is that he's shamed or he's fallen out of the graces of God, and then the angels keep asking God, well, can't you forgive him? Can't you forgive him? Can't you forgive him? I guess God's a bastard because he doesn't forgive him, but we can take that out. And so the angels go and get Gabriel and take him up to heaven,
Right.
and sort of bring him back into the pearly gates. And it's a great scene, and for me that was one of the most, I think I might have even cried because I have that crying
There's
problem.
always one.
I want to be there when you cry.
Well, just go see a movie with me and you'll see me cry.
Well, because Alice is so
apparently
tough. She's so
Yeah.
strong and bold. So to know that there's like,
But I'm a woman, so I can be emotional too.
yes, you
and
can, and I want to be there.
and still be good at my job.
That's right.
Yes.
I can bring home the bacon and cry all over it if I
That's awesome.
want to. Anyway, yes. So that was one of my favorites, and of course the episode where Francis gets attacked and almost
Yeah.
dies was very emotional for me. It was rough.
Ooh, can we talk? Oh, no, we cannot. I was going to talk about Lincoln, but I feel like we
No,
can't.
because you haven't met Lincoln yet, have you?
I don't.
I think he must have.
He doesn't. Wait. So is he also represented in the alternate
Yes.
universe?
Oh yeah,
Is one
she's
of the
met-
Fringe
she's
team?
met Lincoln.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
at the very end of season 3, there's a version of him that exists in the
Mhm.
Walter universe.
Yeah, so I wanted
that
to talk
he
about
gets
him, but
introduced.
He's awesome.
We'll talk about him after you've seen season 5.
Yeah, and I do love the joke of Francis of having to keep the bugs in, so he has to take the drug to keep the bugs in. And everybody
Oh,
teases
yeah.
him. I did love that joke. I thought it was very clever.
Which one was that?
So in the episode where he almost dies because of the bug infestation,
Yeah.
you know, he I forget how they cure him, but so then the alternate on the Fringe team, alternate's Fringe team,
Peter and Walter figure it out.
he has to dose himself, or the bugs will grow inside of him. And the rest of the Fringe team always tease him about his bugs or his spiders. I don't know what they call it. But
After the fact, when
after
he
the
survived,
fact,
it's a running
It's a
joke.
joke. It's a running
pretty
joke.
good.
But I would say, if you were somebody who's not gone down the Fringe route and you're thinking of educating yourself on Fringe,
Definitely watch
if you
Fringe.
are in the least bit queasy about gross shit, I would not recommend the show to you.
That's true. There is a lot of gross stuff.
You know
on
what,
There's a
though?
lot of gross shit.
There is a lot of gratuitous IV administration, and I've administered intravenous needles, and they do it so wrong. The way they do it is like at a 90-degree angle to the person's elbow, and you
Because
would
it's
go
easier to shoot that way on
through
camera.
the vein into your like arm meat, and I'm like, no, you're not getting in a vein that way.
The only way to
Just
fix
stab
this is for
someone's
them
arm.
to really put
Do
that
that.
into the
Right.
actor's
Well, no.
face.
No, because I mean, they have the little needles
Yeah, they're
that,
always
And
going
they
that
go
collapse.
retractor,
That
yeah.
they,
You're
yeah,
supposed to
They
go
could
like
push
this.
it this way.
yes, you're
Mm.
supposed to be almost parallel with your
Go.
vein, and they're
Yeah.
just stabbing the person's elbow.
Oh.
And the way that Alice is with indexing the gun,
Yeah, there you go.
I am with the way that they administer IV shots and whatever.
Can we shorten that so you have a phrase as well? Index the gun for Alice. And
Index your finger, and
tilt the
insert
needle.
Insert the
insert
IV.
the needle almost
perpendicular
parallel.
to the vein.
No,
parallel to the vein. Parallel to the vein.
Not
Index your
perpendicular.
finger parallel to the vein.
There we go.
Nice.
All
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot of gross stuff, and it always. Poor Astrid. She's
I know,
always-
right? Not only is she the plucky black assistant, but she's the
Yeah.
plucky black assistant who has to deal with all the gross shit.
Yeah, she's always like, Walter's always telling her to do the craziest stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I have to say though, like the relationship that she develops with Walter
Great.
throughout the
Yes.
series is
Fantastic.
one of
Yes.
the best things that kind of.
Yes.
No, I love
Softly
her,
develops in
and
the
she's
series.
an amazing actress, and it's a great character. But
Yeah.
in that first season, you're
She's
like,
the
oh,
plucky-
she's the plucky black
Yeah.
assistant.
Yeah, she is the.
I feel bad for
Plucky
her.
But she paid her dues, and I hope that she, as an actress, feels like they.
They
rewarded
gave her a
that.
lot to
Right.
work with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She
she
just
did.
did such an amazing job.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wait for in every episode is what
What is
food
Walter-
is Walter going to
Ask
obsess
for it,
about?
yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's a great review.
Ooh, that leads us
Yes.
into the drinking games, I think.
Yeah, so one of the things those of you who know me know that I love to drink. So one of the things that I often humor myself with is I come up with a drinking game for a show. And, it's basically whatever those they're always repeat
always a running
phases.
gag,
There's
yeah.
always running gags or whatever in a show. And for me, in this one, in my drinking game, you would have to take a shot every time. You'd have to, throw one back every time somebody says, well, in theory.
That's a good one. I never even thought of that.
Because they say it a lot. I mean, somebody says it almost at least once. every
they're scientists.
episode.
Are you
Yeah,
taking a
same
shot,
thing.
or are you just taking a drink of
No,
your beer?
you got to take oh no, you'd be taking it because they say it so much.
Yeah, you
Right,
gotta
so
just
you gotta
take a
sip
sip of
it,
your beer.
right.
Okay.
So, but there would be a special rule for episode 1 because the thing that sort of drove me a little bit crazy because they did it so much in episode 1 is Olivia going down a dark hallway with her gun and her flashlight, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, really?
That happens in like every episode.
Yes.
Well, in
Always going
season
to, like,
1,
these dark
it happens a
places.
lot.
Yeah.
So maybe that one you have to throw one back all the way.
I was thinking a conservative drinking game would be every time Walter calls Astrid something.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
one.
But I
And
think
you have
because-
to listen for it too,
You do,
because
right.
sometimes he does call her Astrid, but in every episode, almost every episode, he calls her something else.
That's why I
So
think you
maybe
have to
they-
drink twice.
Yeah.
Well, right. So if you
That one should be an
accidentally
actual
drink,
shot.
Yeah, an
go to
actual
take a shot when he actually calls her Astrid, you have to do another one.
Oh,
that's
that's
a
good.
good rule.
So it's
Two,
like
Yeah.
a
if he
negative.
gets it
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I
like
think
that.
another one would be every time Olivia and Peter stare at each other without having any dialogue.
Oh my gosh!
You
I
will
love
get
that.
drunk.
That is the point of a drinking
There
game,
is
after
so much
all.
of that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so those are my
Okay, well then,
suggestions.
going back to Astrid anytime that Walter asks her to do something completely ridiculous. Like, here, hold this brain.
Exactly.
Right.
I need 2 eyeballs and a
And a banana smoothie.
Exactly.
Oh, what is the cow's name?
Yes, that was what I was going to
cow.
suggest.
I can't
What is her
remember.
name?
Shoot, somebody.
Let's Google
internet.
Right.
Internet.
Yeah, you should have to take a drink anytime you see the cow or they talk about the cow.
Well, but it would have to. You gotta get fancy with these things. It would have to be something like a White Russian, right? Something with some sort of cream
So
or
drink
milk
a-
in it, or
That's hilarious. Jean.
Right.
Jean, that's right.
Jean.
So
Every time
drink
Jean.
a White Russian every time Jean
Yes,
is
or
in
take
the
a sip
episode.
of your White Russian, your Kahlua and cream.
I was gonna say Bailey's or something.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well,
How about you, Sarah? What would be your drinking game rule?
Oh, anytime my heart skips a beat when I see Peter because I'm in love with him because I identify with Olivia.
Yeah, we need to have one for Peter. Like, what is he
Peter, what
always
is
getting?
Peter?
Well,
Wearing his pea coat.
Yes.
He has the best
That
pea
that
coat.
looked so good on
He
him
has,
though.
man, I want that
Does.
coat so bad. Oh, yeah,
Just
that
checking.
thing is Taylor.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I hope he took it with
Dang.
him after the show.
I would have kept that too.
I'm sure
though.
they auctioned it.
Well, now if he
Truly,
would have
that would be
taken
smarter.
his shirt off more
He
often,
probably had
we could
several
have
of
had
them.
a drink
Ugh.
for
Did
every
he
time
take
he took
his
his
shirt
shirt
off?
off. But
Yeah.
he doesn't.
He
So
doesn't
if we
take
ever
his
do a
shirt
show
off,
about Arrow, we can.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know, I gotta
yeah.
say though, it doesn't. I'm totally fine without clothes coming off because he's just.
He
dreamy.
smolders.
He's
He
smoldering.
does?
Yeah.
he doesn't do
Yeah,
it for
well,
me.
you know, and then I've
Doesn't do it
got
for
I've got
me.
this fangirl issue with Joshua Jackson because I loved him in the Mighty Ducks when I was a kid, and then
Wait,
I
he was
watched-
in the Mighty
he's in
Ducks?
the
Yes!
Mighty Ducks.
How
He's-
old was
He was
he?
the main
He's
character.
Charlie in the
He's
Mighty
like
Ducks. He's the
16.
kid. Yeah.
What?
Okay, episode of Educating Geeks. Sarah's gonna watch Mighty Ducks.
That is not a
Oh,
geeky
God.
movie. We'll just do that for fun.
Who cares? We're
He
gonna
was
watch
so
it.
cute.
He was so cute.
That was
yeah.
pre-Dawson Creek.
And then he's
Dawson's
in
Creek.
Dawson's Creek,
I
and
didn't
I
watch
was
Dawson's
so in
Creek.
love with Pacey.
Yeah.
He was such a
no.
Casey was
troublemaker.
too smart for his own good.
He really was, and he really came into his own in the show. But that's neither here nor there. It's not Fringe, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I love Joshua Jackson, and you know, I can keep a shirt on because
He
he's
can.
just sexy and
Just
Put a
saying.
little
very-
stubble
Just
on him.
saying.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you liked him with the stubble?
I liked him with the stubble.
Mm.
Clean shaven stubble.
I like him anyway.
I mean, he's a good as male characters go. He's a nice example of a male character in terms of relationships, right?
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you know he's honest with Olivia.
Yeah.
Yes, he fools himself with faux Olivia because he wants it so bad and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But he's straight up with her and all.
You touching the
Sorry,
table,
I'm
lady.
pounding the table because I'm so passionate about what I'm saying. Anyway, so you know, and I did admire the writing for that character and the way that Joshua Jackson plays him because he does feel very genuine and real most of the time. There are
Yeah.
a few moments where it doesn't work out for me that way, but I did enjoy the writing for him.
I'm interested to see what you think about the season that just ended when you get there, because there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that happens with Peter that's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I liked it.
And at the beginning, he is this just really kind of wry, sarcastic, hardened, closed off emotionally.
Mhm.
And, you know, I went to therapy for most of my life. And so I pay attention to the psychological development of other people and especially other characters. And I just loved seeing him open up, seeing him just really open up his heart to Olivia and to Walter.
Mhm.
Yeah, to
And-
Walter in particular. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not like pushing aside his relationship with Olivia because that's great, but the relationship that he develops with Walter is just
So great.
so great. I mean, the whole backstory there is such an interesting story. I mean, Walter literally crosses universes
Yeah.
to get his son back because I mean it's just like a piece of him that's totally gone, and Peter just ultimately kind of completely reciprocates that. He like accepts what's happened, and it's such a great pairing in the show. And then in the last season, you haven't even seen it yet. Cassandra
But I
hasn't
know
seen
they're
it yet
like,
either,
leading
but
up to it.
there are some moments that happen between the two of them at the end of the most
Am I gonna
recent
cry?
season. Yes,
Oh,
you
of
will
course.
absolutely
I'll
cry.
cry.
You will
Absolutely.
bawl.
That's
We
what
should
I'm-
watch it together,
we
and then you
should.
can see me
it's
cry.
I'll
so
cry with
touching,
you.
Okay.
And I love to see father-son relationships that are portrayed that way, where they just genuinely just love the crap out of each other, and they can't help it because they're father and son. You know, guy relationships tend to be portrayed as like, oh
Buddy,
yeah, we're gonna hug and then, you know, get away really quick because guys can't show their emotions. You know, men have emotions too, and it's great to see it portrayed that way on screen.
Sure.
Especially through character development.
Yeah.
They, you know, he starts out closed off, and in the end he's completely opened up. And one of the most frustrating things about shows, like I think I'm in like season 3 of Supernatural, is that Dean is just the same guy emotionally just the whole way through, and he almost gets even harder over time.
Which I think
that's
is their
a blind
attempt,
spot for me.
I think that's their attempt at character development.
And those people are like crazy. Those Supernatural fans.
Oh my god. Yeah.
They
are
Tumblr
crazy.
Is like Supernatural Central.
Oh my god.
It's intense. But yes, he does. I only watch that casually because my sister watches it. Mm-hmm. But you're right. He is it's on one dimension. Sam changes certainly more. Yeah. And goes through those levels, but Dean does.
And that's one of the things that really kept me with Fringe. It made me go back to it, even though I, lost my satellite for a week and I didn't have DVR. I went back to it because it was so complex. There weren't really any one-dimensional characters, especially when you involve the alternate universe and other timelines. And there's just so much to challenge you. And I didn't have that frustration I have with a lot of shows where I'm like, really? Are you gonna? You've said that the last 5 seasons.
Right.
Why can't you just see? Why can't you change? Why can't you grow and adapt?
Right. Though some would say that was Scully.
No, that's exactly what I was referencing.
Sometimes it's like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think on some level it's hard because maybe it's deliberate, maybe it's to show that some people aren't capable of changing.
And that's true. I think there are people out there that aren't.
Oh yeah.
But I do like this idea that, for someone, Peter, who is very cold, and I mean we meet him when he's basically
like an arms dealer.
He's
a con artist.
And a con artist. Yeah. And to come from that to what he ends up as in the end of season 6. And, throughout the season, there's this dynamic between he and Walter that's, I can tell is leading up to something really beautiful at the end of the series, because there's this fear. Walter has this fear. And Peter is doing the best he can among all of his grief that you will soon learn about. He's still trying to convince his father that things are going to be okay. And so to come from that, it's a nice development. It's nice.
And I hate surrounding myself in real life with people that can't see what's going on around them and change and adapt and grow. So I'm certainly not going to
watch
spend
a show like
that. Voluntarily spend my TV watching time with people who are just so static.
Right. Don't watch any soap operas then, ever. Because they never, ever learn their lesson.
Nope. That is for sure.
Well, I will be interested to hear if we think that Miss Buffy goes through any change over time.
Yes, that's the next episode.
Buffy at our next episode.
Yeah. Oh, I had just bring it back to the drinking game really quick. So for Peter and Walter, we'll have to take a drink or do a shot anytime there's anytime Peter gets annoyed with his dad.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Another drunkification moment right there.
He certainly gets pretty
he gets
aggravated
frustrated.
with Walter.
Yes.
He'll correct him on Astrid's name.
Yes. So anyway, so next episode we'll be talking about Buffy, because that's one of my blind spots. I wasn't allowed to watch Buffy when it was on.
Oh my goodness.
Seems like Buffy would be right up your alley.
And we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I had watched it when it was on, I would have been a big Buffy fan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
we'll talk about that next time.
So I want to thank you ladies for educating me on Fringe, because I did definitely get hooked, like I said, after those first 3 episodes, and I will definitely watch it through to the season finale.
And we'll have to come back and talk about it again once everyone has seen the whole series, so we can talk about it as a whole and not worry about spoiling for the last bits that some of us haven't seen.
When it comes out on DVD.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot to talk about through the whole end of the series.
Right.
So we'll definitely have to revisit Fringe.
All right.
Well, thanks for
Until
listening.
next time.
Yeah. And next time we'll talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Sweet.